let's just start right there with teams that did not make it. Doug, you go first. Your biggest snub.
I don't think it was Washington. Matter of fact, you look at the committee, they had one last bubble spot that St. Bonaventure kind of took away, and they weren't even on the list of the last under consideration. And the reason is they played a very good out-of-conference schedule. They didn't beat any of those teams. They lost to Nevada. They lost to South Dakota State at home by 20. They lost to Marquette. They lost to Duke. Played good team. Lost to St. Louis. Didn't win any of those games. And then coming down the stretch, you lose your last 2 games of the season at UCLA, Oregon State in the Pac-12 tournament. Considering how weak the conference RPI strength of schedule was, and considering the fact that you didn't beat anybody and you lost to Cal at home, Cal gets in as an at-large. I didn't think they were snubbed. I thought teams like Oral Roberts, 27 wins, won their bracket buster game against Akron, beat Xavier at Xavier. Granted, that was with the suspension of 4 players. I thought they belonged in. I like that they took a good long look at Nevada. Those are some of the teams that I thought should have got in ahead of a South Florida who beat no one out of conference.
I didn't think anybody got snubbed.
Really?
You can make the case as a coach. You can make the case for Washington because they were 14-4 in their league. Last year they let UAB in off of a conference championship. Probably didn't deserve to get in. But when you're a coach and you got to take teams on the road and you win games, you win 14 games in the league. As a coach, I would say, okay, Washington maybe got snubbed. But looking at the numbers, I don't think anybody did. I love Drexel. I did their game. I did their championship game. They lost in the final in Richmond. 11,000 people there rooting for VCU. 300 for Drexel. It was a road game. I loved them when I watched them on film, but they didn't do enough. They had a strength of schedule in the 200s. The committee's very clear on things. Play good people. At the end of the day, the coach in me says, hey, look, you won the Pac-12. You deserve to be in.
Right.
But looking at it, I don't think so.
You know, it did seem to be much quieter yesterday after all was said and done. Not nearly as much complaining this year. So we'll take it as it is. Let's look at the #1 seeds again. Kentucky, Michigan State, Syracuse, and North Carolina. Dan, what are the chances that we see all 4 #1 seeds advance to the Final Four?
I think the chances are pretty good. I think one of the things that's television-like is when you say, okay, who's got the most difficult road? Who has the easiest road? Everybody's got a difficult road. It is very tough, as Doug knows as a player, I know as a player and a coach, to get to the Final Four. There's a lot of things that go into it. You're playing against really good teams. I think the chances are pretty good. I look at Kentucky, and I said this earlier and I'll say it again. When you lose and you have a young team, all of the little problems that you have on your team that get swarmed over because you won now come to the surface. John Calipari is the best in the history of basketball at handling those problems. But UConn's going to be tough. I think Indiana will have a shot, and Duke's pretty good.
It's funny because I think there's great parity in college basketball, but I don't think there's parity at the very, very top. I believe that the premise of this tournament was there were 3 teams that are better than everybody else: Syracuse, Carolina, and Kentucky. And then you look at Michigan State and the way they've been playing of late, and frankly, the draw that they got, I think they got the easiest draw, especially for the style of basketball in which they play. I do think there's a chance. The problem with it is, lost in all the conversation about the brackets, is that Kentucky was beaten, that they can bleed, that they can be beaten other than just a buzzer shot at Indiana, who's very, very good and especially good at home. I think that's really kind of what's lost on the bracket Sunday is Carolina goes down for a second time to Florida State. Kentucky goes down. Of course, Syracuse went down early in the week, that these teams are beatable.
The last time all 4 #1 seeds did advance to the Final Four was 2008, actually the only time also. All right, Coach, looking at mid-major teams playing a first-round game. We got to keep all that straight again. BYU, Iona, Cal, and South Florida. Which of them has the best chance to make a VCU-type run?
I don't think any of them do. Let's start that off right now. But I like Iona because I love Momo Jones. Like, I like guys that are guards that get in a tournament and just don't care. Now, he can beat you in the first round, but he can go get 25 or 30 against anybody in the country. Having said that, I kind of like Cal. I think Gutierrez is a tough guard that can lock down the best player on another team. Cramp can shoot the ball. They have a very good, very experienced coach that's going to play everybody tough. They're going to be very tough. And I think if they can get some shooting, and if they can get end of the game, let Mike Montgomery do his thing, I like Cal.
Yeah, listen, I like Cal's first-round draw against South Florida because South Florida can't score and Cal can't play defense, and they reward whoever wins to whoever scores more points, and Cal win. Problem is they have no depth. They essentially bring 2 walk-ons off the bench, so then they got to hop a flight and fly to Temple and take on the Owls, and if they survive that, play 2 days later. I think depth really hurts them, plus they're not great defensively. I do believe Iona, style-wise, could be a problem for Marquette. The problem is that you want to slow down Marquette, not speed them up, and Iona will try and speed them up. BYU sneaky because, again, a lot like VCU, I'm not necessarily sure they belong in the tournament. But you look at what Dave Rose was able to do last year, getting to the Sweet 16. Matt Carlino at the point has been very, very good. And then they have Brandon Davies inside, who, remember, was kicked off the team late last year. Very good shot blocker. If they could survive Iona, I do think you could see BYU being a problem for Marquette. But both got bad draws in the next game as far as that first-round game, which is really a playing game, as we all know.